Okay, viewers, welcome back to this session where we have to continue with our questions on diagrams and calculations. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Now, viewers, we have another question here which is also interesting. And this question is interesting because it's a question from the same, theory of demand and supply. I've said this several times. If you have not watched our videos on the theory of demand and supply, especially price elasticity of demand, you need to go and watch it so that you can understand some of the secrets in this kind of question. And the question says the price of a ball pen falls from 1 naira to what? 0.6 naira. And the quantity demanded increases from 200 to 300. The elasticity of demand is equal to what? This brings us to the knowledge of price elasticity of demand. And you remember the formula for price elasticity of demand is percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in price. Fine. Where percentage change in quantity demanded also means change in quantity demanded over first quantity times 100, and then percentage change in price can be addressed as change in price over first price times 100. Now, if you substitute this to this, you arrive at a shortcut that we have stated in our video for price elasticity of demand, which says we should go straight to use change in quantity over change in price times first price over first quantity, where change in quantity is equal to the difference between the quantity values. Check this out. Take notes. We try and avoid negative when we are considering change. The difference between 200 and 300 is 100. So we're doing 300 minus 200. And then it gives us 100. We leave that and go to price. Also, change in price will give us this to this. The difference between 1 and 0.6 is, let's just take it as 1 naira minus 0.6 naira. We still have space down there, so let's not manage it. So we have 0.6 naira. We're going to be having 0.4 naira as the difference. And if this is the difference, don't forget that my Q1 is the first quantity, which is 200 units. My first price is the first price. P1 is the first price, which is 1 naira. We introduce that back into the formula, and then we have, so trying to manage space now, we have change in quantity is already here. It's 100 over change in price, which is 0.4 times first price, which is 1 over first quantity, which is 200. 100 here gives you 1, this takes 2, and then you eventually have 1 times 1 over 0.4 times 2, and that takes us to 1 over 0.8. And 1 over 0.8 is same thing as 10 over 8. And 10 over 8 will have 8 in 10 will give you 1, and then you have 2 left. We have decimal point coming, we add 0 to the 2. You have 8 in 20, that gives you 2, and that's 16. You have 4 left, and then you add your 0 again. Your 8 in 40 will give you 5. and that's 1.25, which is option C. So option C is your best answer. I want to add something, please, before we end it. The examiner can also decide to ask you for the interpretation of this answer. Please, this answer represents elastic demand. So price elasticity of demand in this case is elastic. In case the examiner comes up with interpretation instead of leaving you at the figure point, take note. There are questions where the examiner wants you to go that far or stretch you a bit. But if it remains at just the calculation, then what we have is 1.25, which is option C. And that's it. Now, we have a question that I know most students will not find easy to solve because there'll be a little confusion if you don't have a good knowledge of elasticity of demand. Not just the calculation, but also the diagram representation and then the interpretation of these values. This is coefficients. When you solve and you get values, you should be able to interpret them into the types of price elasticity of demand. So let's be careful as we proceed. Now this question says, if the price elasticity of demand for a commodity is 0.43, an increase in the price of the commodity will result in what? Option A, we have a decrease in profit by 43%. That's not going to be true because this value shows inelastic. 0.43 shows inelastic. And if it shows inelastic, it means that the supplier of this commodity has an advantage. He can increase price. He should increase price if he wants to make profit. If this were to be tax burden, the government will increase the price of a commodity whose elasticity of demand is relatively inelastic or fairly inelastic or ordinarily inelastic if they want to make more profits. In fact, if the case is perfectly elastic, it means the consumers have nowhere to go. So you can increase price to any length and still make profits. But for this one, you can increase price to an extent. You will still make profit because this commodity is not a commodity that has perfect substitutes. So you will still want to buy it. It's only a small unit or a part of the consumers, a smaller part of the consumers that will leave the consumption of this commodity. A good number will still remain to buy. So if you check the difference between the price increase and the number still buying this commodity, the supplier will still make more profit. So anything that has to do with decrease in profit cannot be our answer. And this is what I mean. Let's consider this kind of elasticity of demand curve. For 0.43, less than 1, it is what we call inelastic or relatively inelastic or fairly inelastic, depending on how the examiner presents it. But don't get confused. So we're putting up an increase in price. Let me show you that we can't make a loss here. An increase in price. So we're considering the first price. Let's take this first price. We're figuring out something that will give us, so my P1, my Q1. Follow me as we proceed. My first price in this case can just be 500. And then at 500, we're selling 20 units of output. If we have 20 units of output, and then the producer comes in and says, what do? I want to increase price. but we don't know what the outcome is going to be. No problem. With this kind of difference, this kind of gap, let's look at something that has to do with maybe 4,300 naira. So we're taking this as our price axis in naira. Please don't forget. So quantity in units. So if this price is increased from 500 to 1,430 naira, it's our second price. At our second price, the difference is not much. So these consumers are going to just shift a little ground. If the first one is 20, if we're reducing the price, maybe 10 of them will run. And if 10 of them go, let's consider what is happening to the pocket of this producer. At the point he is making the first total revenue, please don't forget that my total revenue is equal to price times quantity. So first total revenue, he has 500 units, 500 naira at how many units produced or sold? 10, 20. 20 will give you a total of 10,000 naira. But when the guy had an increase in price, he now sells at the price of 1,430 naira, and then he sells only 10 units. Yes, that's a reduction in quantity, but that's not having a great effect in his pocket. He's even making more money, because if you look at this, he's making a total of 14,300 naira. Check the difference. Let's look at his profits, because he's not making a loss. You can see it. The profit of this guy is 14,300 minus 10,000. So if he makes that profit, what do we have here? Please check it out. He's making 4,300 naira as his profit. So if he's making 4,300 as his profit, please check what percentage of this has he made as his profit. Check the difference between 10,000 and 14,300. That's 43%. So we must make sure we represent this, we reflect it back to the percentage. If this is 4,300 naira, the question is, compared to 10,000 where the journey is coming from to 14,000, what's the percentage of this? Just do 43,000 divided by 100, you get 43%. Please take note. 4,300, 100. This is going to give you 43%. So this guy makes 43%. He's making a profit, not a loss. So option A cannot be your answer. It's not a decrease in profit by 43%. No. Because the nature of the commodity is relatively inelastic or fairly inelastic or inelastic. What do we mean? When there's an increase in price, the consumers will run, but just a few. So it is the difference between the price increase that will cover up for those who have left the market. You're still going to make profits. So looking at that simple calculation, option B is our best answer. An increase in profit by 43%. We cannot consider a net loss, because this question gave us a value that we can always refer to percentage. This 43%, if you check it, multiply this by 100. So if you want to take it back to the percentage, you divide it by 100, and that gives us 43%. So compare this to this. This means our answer is correct. This cannot come in because the percentage is not reflecting. This cannot also come in, no percentage reflection. So anytime, any day, if you follow this process, you cannot get it wrong with this kind of question. If the examiner gives you this kind of question, even if you have to do a little navigation or adjustment, if you follow this process, you will still get your answer correctly to be option B. Okay, viewers, with this we have come to the end of today's session of calculation and diagrams in economics. And don't forget to follow the trend of our videos in this topic. Click on the like button, subscribe, turn on your notification, and don't forget to leave a comment. Thank you very much for being a part of CS Academy.